I spent years thinking I was broken. Every business coach told me to wake up at 5 a.m. and batch my content on Mondays and just strictly time block my calendar. And every time I tried, I would last for like 3 days before completely falling apart. And it wasn't until I stopped trying to fix myself and feeling so much guilt about not being able to do all of these things and really started focusing on not only how my brain operates, but how I could operate with it. Everything changed. So today I'm telling you that story, why I finally wrote it all down in a book that I really never planned to write.
You, you, yes. Yo, it's Alyece, say it right, no cap. ADHD CEO, yeah, we run this track. Systems that slap, brains built different. We make sales in our sleep, yeah, the hustle's efficient. This ain't fluff, nah, this is strategy raw for the ADHD. Minds breaking every law. Hit subscribe, don't miss a single show. We're running on dopamine, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, welcome back to the ADHD CEO podcast. I'm Alyece Smith. If you're here, you're probably tired of all of the advice, whether you are an entrepreneur, which is most of the people in my audience, or even just, an ADHD professional. You're probably tired and exhausted of all the advice that just never seems to work for you. Today's episode's different. Okay. It's personal, it's vulnerable, and it's the story behind flow first thinking, the framework that completely changed how I build my business and even how I operate on a daily basis. I want to take you back to, let's just go back to when I still worked in corporate, like 2021, early 2022. I was so exhausted because I felt like I knew I was a good employee. I knew I produced good results. Of course, I had all of the other things going on in my personal life. If you don't know, the book, which is on pre-sale, oh my gosh, goes over a lot of the first two chapters are actually my story, not because I wanted to write some kind of autobiography, but because I feel like it's so important for you to see one, you're not alone, but two, how the way our brain operates can really affect things that happen to us on a daily basis. But back to all of this. In corporate, I knew I was a good employee. I knew I produced good results. In fact, they used to joke at my last job that they called me the golden goose because if I took on a project, whether it be graphics or something with media or some sort of like team member retention project, I was going to go all in. And they knew that. I would go into that hyper focus and I was going to make sure it was done amazing. And then it usually produce good results because I gave it all of my attention. And that led to a lot of burnout. And not just at that job, but so many times in my life, I was asked for feedback or I was asked, what do you think about this? Well, when I would give honest feedback, brain operates different. Then it was perceived as I was being negative or I was going against the grain or I was just trying to be difficult. So it was like this lose lose situation I felt like I was always set up with. And then if you don't know all the story about me leaving corporate, going and starting my business, again, it's in the book and there's I've said it 1,000 times online. I don't want to spend this whole episode rehashing it. But 2022, June-ish, I left my job and I started building Socially Awesome. And, immediately had that fear of rejection, that fear of, oh my gosh, what if I don't make sales? I just screwed up big time, all of that stuff. But about 6 months into that business, after getting really good results, like building six figures in revenue in less than 6 months, I was completely burnt out. Not the like, I need a vacation kind of burnt out, the I don't know if I could do this anymore kind of burnt out. And I was internalizing and struggling so much because I was like, this is the most money I've ever made in my life. I'm able to do it from home. I should be grateful. I can be flexible with the kids, but man, I have never worked harder, never been more exhausted, like physical signs of exhaustion, standing up and getting dizzy and ready to pass out and all of those things. And I would just sit here and think like, man, I'm waking up at 5:30 a.m. so that I could work a little bit before I get the kids up. There is this pit in my stomach because of all the things I have to do. It was just me at the time. There's no team. I would get this like severe paralysis at 2 p.m. because I was working, working, working constantly at my computer. My eyes are literally burning, but I felt like nothing was getting done. And then I would just spiral all afternoon because it was like the brain fog would take over around zombie time, 2, 3 p.m. I couldn't think straight. I would do the afternoon routine, get the kids, in bed, and then I would come sit back in front of my computer until 2 a.m. and then repeat. And I hired coaches. I had read the books. I tried all of these productivity systems and time blocking and Pomodoro technique and morning routines that, I'd set for myself. I created them myself, bullet journaling and affirmations. And, I felt like everything either lasted 2 days, I forgot to start the timer, I hated waking up early, and it was just too many steps with the whole bullet journaling thing. I'm not even gonna lie. And every time something didn't work, I was just hurting my own confidence even more. I felt like everyone else can do this. What is literally wrong with me? But what I didn't understand was that, nothing was wrong with me. The systems were wrong. And it took me so long to realize that. And I am not like a total science nerd. Okay. If you start speaking too many medical terms, I'm like, whoa, I'm out. But some of this came from me really studying the problems I was seeing, not the jokingly, oh, we all have ADHD, oh, we're scatterbrain, we're squirrel, whatever, all those jokes and memes and stuff like that, but actual neuroscience behind it. And I started digging into the energy because I got certified as a high performance coach. And I knew I was a very productive person, a very high performing person, but I could not teach others to do it the way I did it. It would always confuse people, or they didn't understand my systems that I had started creating for myself. Now, when I tried to break down why I was doing things the way I was doing for clients or students or just people who would ask, I was like, well, it's because I have a certain amount of energy at this time of day and no energy at this time of day. And so I really started doing the research on like your chronotypes and energy tracking. And I found and that's when I found all the research behind flow. And so flow is not something that I made up. Okay. Flow is a real thing. And I just really dug into why is it that over 70% of adults with ADHD regularly experience flow states and not everyone else. And so I started pairing that with the science that I could understand more or less. And I started thinking like, what if we just work a little bit differently? I started paying attention to when things actually felt easy, not when they were supposed to feel easy. Okay. When they actually did. And I noticed I could write emails at 10 p.m. with like zero resistance. But at 9 a.m., I'd stare at that screen for like an hour. I could film content for 3 hours straight if I did it at the right time of day, in the right place, okay? Your setting, your office setting, or for me, it's in the car. I can film content back to back to back to back in the car. I don't know if it's the pressure of like, oh my gosh, what if someone's watching me? Obviously not while driving, but I could tackle those boring admin tasks if I had like Netflix on at the same time, or I could plan my week if I did it on Sunday night, not Monday morning. And so I really stopped fighting all the things I'd been taught and started paying more attention to these patterns. And neurodivergent brains are exceptional at pattern recognition. And so instead of trying to batch content on Mondays, like everyone said, I started filming on Thursday afternoon after my coaching calls when my energy was already high. And suddenly content creation wasn't torture anymore. Right. And the more I leaned into this, the more I realized I wasn't lazy. I just needed different systems and it might not make sense for anyone else. And that is totally fine. But that's when I started documenting what was working. And I called it flow first thinking because instead of forcing all of this productivity and all the things I learned becoming a high performance coach, I was following my natural flow. And so the framework has 4 parts. If you did not already watch my TED Talk, I talk about them in there. I'll link that in the show notes for you. But I really go over these in depth there. And then, of course, the book is the manual to how you can put this into your life. Okay. But find your spark times, boring but stimulating, organize your overflow, work your week around your peaks. And what happened when I started implementing flow is that I got better results regularly, not because I fixed anything, but because I finally was going with the flow, unintended. And I didn't have time before flow was spent in like guilt and internal spiraling and second guessing everything and questioning everything because I felt like a total failure inside. After flow, it's like, yeah, this is working and it's fun and I'm not completely exhausted. My executive functions here because I was building daily momentum. And so I never planned to write a book about it. Honestly, I was even terrified to tell anybody about my little funny acronym. Okay. And I obviously eventually submitted it for a TED Talk because I was like, this could be life changing if I got over my own fear of rejection and my own fear of embarrassment. And with that, I've gotten so many messages from people listening to this podcast or people watching my content that's like, I have never felt more seen. And so that just kind of pushed me to obviously apply for the talk, give the talk, and now publish the book. And every chapter is part of the framework. Every tool is something I actively use. Every example is real from my business, my students, people I've worked with one on one. And it's called Flow First Thinking. ADHD isn't broken, it's untapped potential. And it launched today in early access. So I want to tell you a little bit about what that means because you're not going to want to sit on this. Okay. If you grab a copy during early access, and there's a paperback version and a hardback version, which early access will run through January 28th or until we hit 300 copies. Okay. You're not just getting the book, it's going to be an autographed copy. Doesn't matter if you choose paperback or hardback. You're going to get early access to the ebook on February 4th. Okay. Because I want you to start reading before your physical copy ships. The reason for that is there's a live masterclass with me on February 18th, 2 times less, so everyone can make it. That live masterclass, I am going to be live teaching this framework. Okay. And I already know before we even get to it, I address it in the book. I know there's a lot of ADHD people listening to this that are like, I hate reading. Okay. That's why I'm giving it to you in multiple formats. And I'm going to give you even, there is an audiobook coming, but Audible can take a long time to approve it. So I would say like mid-February, be on the lookout for the audiobook. You do get a half off coupon for the audiobook when it drops. Um, if you've got early access, you will get a half off coupon for the audiobook as well, but you can, I'm pretty sure, have Kindle read it to you. It might not be the prettiest voice, but it is fun. I'm pretty sure. Okay. With all that being said, exclusive chapter 10. No one else is getting that chapter except for pre-sale purchasers. You're going to get the Flow First tracker, all the resources I created to go with the book, well over $500 in bonuses. And the book is scheduled to ship February 14th. All right. So again, you will get the ebook access February 4th. So a little over 2 weeks from now, you'll actually have the book that you can read, ebook, your physical copy, ETA for those. That gives me like a couple days to get them here signed and then shipped to you is February 14th. So if you've been waiting for business advice that, you know, actually gets your brain or even just professional advice. I've worked with people that work in corporate. I talk about this. I give examples in the book too. But the links in the show notes, and my next episode, I'm going to walk you through what's actually in the book, who it's for, how to know if it's right for you. But again, only 300 copies. When they sell out, they sell out. Okay. I'm going to leave you with this though. You are not broken. You're not lazy. You just need systems built for how your brain actually works. If you have not watched the TED Talk, I would also plug into that. I'll put that in the show notes. But that's exactly what Flow First Thinking gives you. If you got any value out of this episode or any episodes, please leave the podcast a review. It is the absolute best compliment you can give. And until next time, make it simple, make it social, make it awesome.